Good evening, everyone. In the last session, we discussed about what is a map and why we need to go for map. Map is an interface available in java.util package. Map is used to store the data in the key value format. One key value pair is called as one entry. One map object can have multiple entries. In map, keys should be unique values and keys should be unique and values can be duplicate in the map. If we try to store duplicate keys in map, then it will replace old key data with new key data. We can take key and value as any type of data. So key value I'm taking as integer string, string integer, integer integer, string like that. Any type of data you can store in the map as a key and value. The only thing is key should be unique and value can be duplicate. And we have seen that in the map interface, there are several implementation classes available. One is hash map, second one is linked hash map, third one is tree map, fourth one is hash table, and the fifth one is identity hash map, and the sixth one is weak hash map. Like that, there are several implementation classes available for map interface. And we have seen that there are several methods also available in the map. Put method is used to store one entry in the map object, entry nothing but key and value. Get method is used to get method is used to get the value based on the given key. Remove method to remove one entry based on the given key. Contains key method to check presence of the given key. Key set method to get all keys of the map. Values to get the all values of the map. Entry set to get all the entries, entry nothing but a combination of key and value. Clear method to remove all the entries of the map. IsEmpty method to check whether map object is empty or not. Size method to get size of the map. How many entries are available, we can check in the map by using size method. And in the last session, we have done a demo on how to store normal integer objects in the map in the form of key and value. Key I'm taking as integer, value I'm taking as a string. Then later point of time, we have seen how to store student objects in the map as a key and value, and we are able to traverse that by using entry set and key set. Can we directly use iterator to traverse the map object, guys? Can I use iterator to traverse the map directly, or I cannot use iterator to traverse the map directly? Cursors will not applicable for the map directly. Cursors are applicable for list and set only. Cursors are applicable for list and set only. We can't use on the map directly. Then what we need to do? We need to we need to we need to take the entry set, or we need to take the key set. Then we can traverse them by using cursors. Clear na? Fine. So what is this hash map and how this hash map is working internally? Hash map is one of the implementation for map interface. Hash map, one of the implementation for map interface. It is IMPL class for map interface. IMPL class for map interface. Used to store data in key value format. Used to store the data in the key value format. Default capacity is 16. Default capacity is 16 and load factor 0.75. Load factor 0.75. Default capacity is 16. Okay. Homogeneous and heterogeneous objects are there. Now here like this, we are going to store the data in the key value format. Default capacity is 16. Load factor is 0.75. Underlying data structure is a hash table. Underlying data structure is hash table for the hash map. Whenever we create the object for the hash map internally, hash table will be created with the capacity of 16. So here, when I am going to call the constructor of the hash map like this. Hash map is equal to new hash map. Hash map is equal to new hash map. I'm creating the object for the hash map. Whenever object is created for the hash map, internally hash table will be created. Internally hash table will be created. What is the capacity of that hash table? That hash table capacity will be created with 16. Hash table will be created with the capacity of 16. Okay, 16 buckets will be created. 1 2 3 1 2 3 and so on up to 16 buckets will be created. So these buckets are used to store our data. These buckets are used to store our data. Whenever you call map method, map.put of some key comma value. Whenever you store the data in the map, here we are going to use map.put of id comma name. Here I'm taking key as a integer, value as a string. I'm calling map.put. I'm trying to store the data in the map object. Whenever you put the data in the map by using put method, first it is going to check in that map already is there any key available with the same. Is there any key already available with the same? If the key is already available, it is going to replace the new data with the old data. Old data will be replaced with the new data. So now whenever you call this put method internally, it is going to check the key hash code. It is going to get the hash code of the key. Once it get the hash code of the key, based on the hash code, it is going to execute one formula. That formula will be executed by taking hash code as an input. Whatever the key hash code is available, that a hash code will be supplied as an input for the formula. That formula will return bucket number. So that complex formula will be executed by the hash map, and that formula will return bucket number. That formula will return bucket number. Once that bucket number is returned, that particular object will be stored into that bucket. Key and value will be stored into that bucket. So like this, internally hash map will maintain hash table as a data structure to store the data in the key value. Similarly, I'm going to call one more method, one more object, map.put of 1 or 2 comma some Smith. Like this, I'm trying to store one more object into hash map. When I try to store one more object into hash map, it is going to identify hash code of the key. Based on that hash code of that key object, it is going to identify the bucket number. Then that object will be stored into a bucket. For example, John is identified as a third bucket value. Smith is identified as a first bucket value. That depends upon hash code of the object. Is it going to maintain insertion order? This hash code will not maintain the insertion order. Guys, hash code will maintain the insertion order, or a hash code will not maintain the insertion order. Hash code will maintain the insertion order, or a hash code will not maintain the insertion order. Come on guys, hash code will maintain the insertion order, or a hash code will not maintain the insertion order. Hash code will not maintain the insertion order because it is going to store the data in the buckets based on the hash code of the key. What is the underlying data structure for the hash map? What is the underlying data structure of the hash map? The underlying data structure of the hash map is hash table. The underlying data structure of the hash map is hash table. So it is not going to maintain insertion order. For example, if two keys are, whenever the keys are having the same hash code, here it is going to maintain a linked list concept to store that data. Internally, hash table plus linked list concept will be used by hash map in order to store the data. Now, when I'm storing the data into the hash map, like this key and value, if I'm trying to print this data, system.out.println of map, is it maintaining the insertion order or is it not maintaining the insertion order? Let us check this. Is it maintaining the insertion order or it is not maintaining the insertion order? Check it. I have stored 4 objects into the map. I have stored three objects, four objects, three objects. One is duplicate, na? 102 is a duplicate value. When I'm inserting three objects, 101, 102, 103 here, they came in the insertion order, but actually that it depends upon the hash code. It depends upon the hash code. Insertion order will not be maintained by the hash map. Now, if we want to maintain the insertion order for our objects, then we need to go for linked hash map. Insertion order will not be maintained. Insertion order will not be maintained by hash map because it is using hash table as a data structure. It is using hash table as a data structure, so it will not maintain insertion order. It will not maintain insertion order. If I want to maintain the insertion order for my data, then which implementation class we need to take, guys? Which implementation class we need to take? We need to go for linked hash map. We need to go for what? We need to go for linked hash map. So what is the purpose of linked hash map? What is the purpose of linked hash map? What is this linked hash map? Come on. Implementation class for map interface. Implementation class for map interface maintains insertion order. Maintains insertion order. To store the data in the key value format, we are going for linked hash map. It will maintain the data in the insertion order. What is the data structure? Data structure is hash table plus double linked list. Hash table plus double linked list concept will be available. It will maintain the data in the insertion order. Then what is the purpose of tree map, guys? Methods are same. Here also put method, get method, remove method, contains method, is empty method. Similarly, what is the purpose of tree map? Can you guys tell me what is the purpose of tree map? What is the purpose of tree map, guys? Why we are going to use a tree map? Why we are going to use a tree map? It is used to insert the data. It is also one of the implementation class for map interface. It is also used to store the data in the form of key value. Implementation class for map interface. Implementation class for map interface. It maintains sorted order. It maintains sorted order. What is that sorted order? It maintains natural sorting order. Maintains natural sorting order. Now let's try to create one tree map class and see what is the behavior of that. Let us try to create one tree map class and see what is the behavior. New class tree map demo. New class tree map demo class I'm using. Let me close this. Let me go for tree map demo class. Now here I'm taking a main method. Now tree map key and value. Key is a string and value is a integer. Map is equal to new tree map. I'm trying to create the object for tree map class. Tree map is one of the implementation. Tree map is one of the implementation class for map interface. Tree map is equal to new tree map. Okay. Then I'm storing map.put some value Ashok and value key is Ashok, value is 101 and the map.put of some Vamshi and the value I'm storing as some 200, some ID. Then map.put of some Raja and value I'm storing as some 50. Like this, I'm storing the data in the tree map. System.out.println, let us print the map. System.out.println, let us print the map object now. So when I execute this map, now what happened, guys? Is it maintaining the insertion order? is it maintaining the natural sorting order for the keys? How it is storing the data? How it is storing the data? Come on guys, how it is storing the data? It is storing the data. It is storing the data on the natural sorting order of the keys. It is storing the data, natural sorting order. Sorting it is doing based on the keys, or sorting it is doing based on the values. Sorting is applicable for the keys, or sorting is applicable for the variables. Sorting is applicable for the keys, or sorting is applicable for the values, guys. On which basis it is doing that sorting? Sorting it is performing based on the keys. Natural sorting order it is implementing based on the keys, guys. Okay, fine. Tree map. Implementation class for map interface. It maintains natural sorted order for keys. It maintains natural sorted order for keys concept. Got it? Fine, perfect. So always it is going to compare the new object with the existing object to understand in which order those objects should come. So like this map is available in order to perform this natural sorting order. Tree map is available to perform natural sorting order. So hash map is available, linked hash map is available, tree map is available. Whenever we are storing the data in the map object, if you want to maintain the natural sorting order, then you need to go for tree map concept. Okay, based on the keys, if you want to sort the data, then it's better to go for tree map concept. If you want to insert the entries in the map in the inserted order, then you need to go for linked hash map. If you want to store the data in the hash map where the order is not important, then we can go for hash map concept. There we can go for hash map concept. Okay, what is the internal data structure of the tree map? Binary tree. Internal data structure. Internal data structure for a tree map is binary trees, right? It will maintain the data in the tree structure by using sorting technique. It will maintain the data in the sorted order, and internally it is using binary tree concept to manage that sorting. Internally it is using binary tree concept to manage that sorting. Okay. Are you clear? Are you guys clear with this? Yes, perfect. So with this, we understood the basic concept of what is list, what is set, what is map. Then we have another collection. We have another collection that is called queue is available. We have another collection called queue available. What is the purpose of a queue? When we need to go for a queue, guys? What is the purpose of queue? Queue, it is extending the properties from, it is extending properties from collection interface. It is extending the properties from collection interface. Queue, it is used to store the store group of objects. It is used to store group of objects. It is used to store group of objects. Internal data structure. Internal data structure is FIFO. Stack is LIFO. Queue is FIFO. That is nothing but first in, first out. Okay. Internal data structure is FIFO. Nothing but first in, first out. Internal data structure is FIFO. Nothing but first in, first out. So basically, when we go for collections, collection is the topmost interface. From that collection, list, set, and map extending the properties. List, set, map extending the properties. Sorry, map not. List, set, queue extending the properties. Map is a separate interface. Now, when we talk about this collections, here collection is one interface. Collection is one interface. From that collection, list extending the properties, set extending the properties, and queue is also extending the properties. List, set, queue extending the properties from the collection. These three are interfaces only. These three are interfaces only. They are extending the properties from the collection. Map is a different concept. Map is used to store the data in the form of key and value. List, set, to queue, they use it to store the data directly as a object. Map is a separate interface. There is no relation between map interface and this collection interface. List, set, to queue extending from the collection. Okay. This queue, what is the purpose of queue interface? Queue interface available in java.util package. Okay. And it is extending the properties from collection interface. It is used to store the data in the form of objects. Internal data structure FIFO. Internal data structure FIFO. Now it will maintain order. It is an ordered list of objects. It is ordered. It is ordered list of objects. Why? Because in which order we insert, in the same order it has to delete, right? First in, first out. It is an ordered list of objects. Okay, guys. Now, when the new object is inserted, new object will be added at the end of the collection. New object, newly inserted object will be added at the end of the collection. Okay. Removing will start from the first come, first serve. So whenever we are going for a queue concept, right? So queue will be available like this. Whenever I add a new object will be added at the end. New object will be added at the end. When I try to remove the object, removal will happen from the beginning, adding will happen from the ending. So this is start point of the queue and this is end point of the queue. Okay, start and end. So whenever we add a new object, always the object will be added at the end of the queue. Whenever we remove the object, object's removal will happen from beginning of the queue. Newly inserted object will be added at the end of the collection. Newly added object, right? Fine. Removal of elements occur at the beginning of the list. Insertion of the elements will happen at end of the list, end of the collection. Insertion will happen at end of the collection. Insertion will happen at end of the collection. Removal will happen at beginning of the collection. Queue. So if you go and stand in the queue at the ATM, who will come first into the queue? They will get into the ATM first. First in, first out. Who will come and stand in the queue first? They will go out first. So newly insertion will happen, new objects insertion will happen at the end of the collection. Removal will happen at the beginning of the collection. Queue, it is extending properties from collection interface. It is used to store group of objects. Internal data structure is FIFO, first in, first out. It is ordered list of objects. Insertion will happen at end of the collection. Removal will happen at beginning of the collection. Removal will happen at the beginning of the collection. Are you guys clear with that? Understand my point here? Now let us try to write a program on the queue concept. Okay, so here let me take a demo. Map demo is available now. Let me take as a queue demo. In the queue demo class, I'm going to create a class based on priority queue main method. Inside the main method, I'm going to create priority queue. Priority queue I'm taking with the string type priority queue. queue is equal to new priority queue. New priority queue. I'm creating one object for this. So what is this priority queue? Priority queue is available, a class is available, priority queue class. Now, this priority queue class is used to maintain the data in the queue order, and whenever some people came in the queue, whenever some VIP person comes into the queue, then we will give them the first chance. Okay guys, so priority queue will maintain first in first out. We can give some priority for the objects in the queue also. For that we are going for a concept called priority queue concept. We are going for a concept called priority queue concept. All right, now let us see how to create the data, how to store the data into queue. So in order to add the data to the queue, we are having a method queue.add of some John. I'm adding John value into this queue. Then I'm adding queue.add of some Smith. Queue.add of John, queue.add of Smith, and queue.add of some Orlin, some value. And similarly, queue.add of some Charles. Like this, I have added names into the queue. Okay. System.out.println. System.out.println of queue. I'm trying to print the data available in the queue. Run as Java application. See here, Charles, John, Orlin, Smith. Okay, Charles, John, Orlin, Smith. The data is added to the collection. That is a queue, priority queue. System.out.println. I'm going to access queue.element. Queue.element method is available. Queue.element method is available in order to access the element from the collection. Run as Java application. Now, when I access this element, it is giving the head element. Okay, guys, queue.head element, it is giving the Charles element for me. It is giving the Charles element for me. So similarly, we can get the peak element also. We can get the peak element also. Now queue.element. Okay, what is the purpose of queue.element? Retrieves but does not remove the head of this queue. This method differs from peak only in that throws an exception if the queue is empty. You can get the head of the element by using queue also. Queue.peak. Queue.peak. Right click, run as Java application. So either you can get the head of the element by using element method, or you can get it by using peak also. By using peak also, we can get the head of the element. And queue.iterator. Can I use iterator with the queue? Yes, iterator is applicable for the queue. While iterator dot has next. While iterator dot has next. Then, sorry, iterator dot not hash code. Iterator dot has next. When the next element is available in the iterator, I want to get that next element. I want to get that next element. System.out.println. System.out.println iterator.next. Okay guys, I want to print all the elements of that. Yes, I'm able to print all the elements of that. By using iterator, I'm able to print the data. Now here I'm going for a method called queue.remove. Queue.remove, and I'm going for queue.poll. What is the purpose of remove method? Retrieves and removes the head of the queue. Okay, poll method is also used to remove and remove the head of the element. Head of the element will be removed by using poll method. Okay guys, so you can use add method, you can use peak method, you can use poll method to remove these things from the queue. To remove these things from the queue. Like this, we can use a queue interface also, which is used to store the data in the collection, which is used to store the data in the form of queue collection. That collection is a FIFO, that is first in, first out. That is first in, first out. Clear? List set to queue and map. Now, whenever you go for queue concept, we can insert or remove the objects from only one end. Insertion will happen at the last. Removal will happen from the beginning because it is a first in first out. Similar to this, there is a one more class called ArrayDQ. So if you want to insert or remove the data from any order, then you can go for a class called ArrayDQ. Class is available, but it is very less used class, guys. ArrayDQ class is also available. ArrayDQ class is also available. Now, main method. Let us go for a class with a name called ArrayDQ. Let me take some string. ArrayDQ, ADQ is equal to AD is equal to new ArrayDQ. ArrayDQ is a class which will support operations from both sides of the queue. Okay, we can add or remove the elements from both sides. If you go for a queue concept, we can add the data at the end and removal will happen from the beginning. If you go for ArrayDQ class extending from abstraction, it is implementing DQ. DQ is extending from queue. DQ is extending from queue. Okay, ArrayDQ is one of the class available. ArrayDQ class, it introduced in which version of the Java? 1.6 version of the Java. Let us see what is this ArrayDQ is doing. Resizable array implementation of the DQ interface. ArrayDQ have no capacity restriction. They grow as necessary to support the usage. They are not thread safe. In the absence of external synchronization, most operations run in amortized constant time. Exception includes remove. The iterators returned this class operations in constant time. Methods are fail fast. Note that fail fast behavior. This class and its iterator implementation of the methods of the collection. This class is the member of the Java collections framework. The type of elements held in the collection. Okay, elements of the DQ are stored. The capacity of the DQ is the length of this array, which is always a power of 2. Okay, now, if you go for queue concept, it is a first in first out. But when you go for ArrayDQ, it is maintaining a growable array concept. And operations will be supported from both sides. AD.add. I want to add one object. Adding one. AD.add. I'm adding some 2. AD.3. AD.add of 3. Like this, I'm adding 3 objects. System.out.println of AD. System.out.println of AD. 1, 2, 3. I'm able to add the objects into ArrayDQ. So what is the difference between queue and ArrayDQ? Guys, can you tell me what is the difference between queue and ArrayDQ? Can anyone tell me what is the difference between queue and ArrayDQ? When you go for normal queue, insertion will happen at the end. When you go for normal queue, insertion will happen at the end of the queue and removal will happen at the beginning of the queue. When you go for ArrayDQ, insertion and removals can be done from both sides of the queue. So ArrayDQ is following the growable array concept. ArrayDQ is following growable array concept. Right. Now here we have the methods AD.poll first, system.out.println of AD. First I'm printing the AD, then I'm printing the poll first. When I call poll first, what happened, guys? When I call the poll first method, what happened? Retrieves and removes the first element of the DQ, return the null if the DQ is empty. Poll first. Then I'm doing AD.poll last. So do we have the methods to remove the element at first of the queue and last of the queue? We can do the operations at both sides of the queue when we go for a concept called ArrayDQ. When we go for a concept called ArrayDQ, we can perform the operations at the both sides. See, whenever I print AD line number 15, all the three objects printed. Then in the line number 17, I called poll first. Then what happened? One is the first object removed from the queue and it printed 2 and 3. Here in the line number 19, I called poll last. Then it removed the last object in the queue and it printed the middle object. I'm able to remove the first object and I'm able to remove the last object. Am I able to do the removal operations at both sides of the queue? Am I able to do the removal at both sides of the queue? Yes, I'm able to remove the objects at both sides of the queue. AD dot add first. AD dot add first. What will happen here? If I give here as 5, or if I'm giving add first as some Ashok, then when I run this application, what will happen? Ashok is inserting first. So that means I'm able to decide that when I need to add the data, whether I should add the first of the queue or I should add at the last of the queue, I can decide based on my requirement. That is the beauty of going for array DQ. If you go for normal queue, is this facility available? If I go for normal queue, is this facility available? No. When we go for normal queue, what will happen? When you go for normal queue, what will happen? When we go for normal queue, they will be added only at the end. Only insertion at the end, removal will happen at the beginning. But when you go for array DQ, you are able to add the data at the first. You are able to remove the data from the first. We are able to remove the data from the last. Okay, guys. So like this, we have advantage of going for array DQ concept. Advantage of going for array DQ concept. Okay. So this is a queue demo. Priority queue we have used to store the data. Java program with the priority queue. Java program with the priority queue. And the next one, Java program with the array DQ. Java program with the array DQ. Java program with the array DQ. Priority queue and DQ we have seen. Priority queue means it will maintain that last in, first out. DQ, array DQ. Insertion can be done from both sides. Insertions can be done from both sides. Clear, guys? Linked list class also is going to implement that queue interface. Linked list class also will implement queue interface. Okay, priority queue, linked list, array DQ. If you see priority queue, it is extending from abstract queue. Extending from abstract queue. Abstract queue is implementing queue. So priority queue is one of the implementation class for queue interface. Array DQ is one of the implementation for queue interface. Priority queue is one of the implementation for queue interface, and array DQ is one of the implementation for queue interface. What is the difference between priority queue and array DQ? Array DQ is a more flexible queue which will support the insertion and removal from both sides of the queue. When it comes to the set, we have seen that has a set, and we have seen that linked has a set, and we have seen that tree set. When it comes to the list, we have seen array list, and we have seen linked list, and we have seen vector, and we have seen stack. Okay, when it comes to the map, in the map we have seen hash map, very important, and linked hash map, and we have seen tree map also. And coming to the cursors, so as we have seen that there are three types of cursors. One is iterator, and the second one is list iterator, and the third one is enumeration. Third one is enumeration. In these cursors, iterator cursor supported for list, set, and queue. List iterator supports for only list implementation classes. Enumeration supports for only legacy classes. Guys, in the map concept, there is another class called hash table. Hash table is also a legacy class introduced in 1.0 version of the Java. Let me go to JSC API. Let me go for JSC API. JSC API. JSC API 8. Java.util package. I'm going for Java.util package. Now, in this util package, there is a class called a hash table. There is a class called a hash table. What is this a hash table? Hash table is a class available in the util package, and this class is implementing which interface? Map interface. Hash table class is implementing a map interface. From which version of the Java this class is available? This is available from 1.0. This is available from 1.0. Initial capacity of the hash table is 11. Load factor is 0.75. Initial capacity of the hash table is 11 and the load factor is 0.75. This hash table comes under map concept. Hash table comes under map concept. Hash table. It is a legacy class. Hash table is a legacy class. It is implementation class for map interface. It is implementation class for map interface. Default capacity is 11. Load factor 0.75. Load factor 0.75. So data will be stored in the form of key value pair format, key value format to store the data. Key value format to store the data. Hash table. Hash table is a legacy class introduced in 1.0 version of Java. Hash table is legacy class. Hash table is legacy class available from JDK 1.0 version. Available from JDK 1.0 version. Now this hash table class is a map interface implementation. This is a map interface implementation. This class implements a hash table which maps key values. Any null object can be used as a key or as a value. To successfully store and retrieve the objects from a hash table, the objects used keys must implement the hash code method and equals method. Instance of hash table, two parameters, initial capacity and load factor. Initial capacity represents buckets in the hash table. Okay. Generally, the default load factor is 0.75. If 0.75 hash table is filled, then it is going to create the new hash table. So put method we can use here, remove method, get method we can use. Since JDK 1.0, this is a legacy class. This is a legacy class. Hash table is a synchronized. This is synchronized. Only one thread can access at a time. Only one thread can access at a time. Hash table is synchronized. Hash table is synchronized. Only one thread can access at a time. Hash table implementation class for map interface. Default capacity is 11. Load factor is 0.75. will store the data in the key value format. Hash table is a legacy class introduced in JDK 1.0. Hash table is synchronized. Hash table is synchronized. Okay. Now you see. Can you please read this statement? You will understand what Java is telling about the hash table. What Java is telling about the hash table, you will understand. Read that. As of the Java platform version 1.2, this class was retrofitted to implement the map interface. Initially, when the collections framework is not available, hash table came into market in the 1.0 version of Java. In the 1.2 version of the Java, map interface came into picture. So in the 1.2, they changed the hash table class to implement map interface, making the member of the collections framework. Unlike the new collection implementations, hash table is a synchronized. Hash table is a synchronized class. That means only one thread can access at a time. If your thread safe implementation is not needed, then it is recommended to use a hash map in place of a hash table. They are only clearly telling that, boss, if thread safety is not important for you, then go for hash map instead of a hash table. If thread safe is highly recommended, concurrent modifications are required, then instead of this a hash table, go for concurrent hash map. So officially that Sun Micro system told that don't use a hash table. Instead of a hash table, you can go for either hash map or you can go for concurrent hash map. If synchronization is not required, if thread safety is not required, then better to go for hash table. If thread safety is important for you, then better to go for concurrent hash map instead of going for hash table. Are you clear? Yes, we'll discuss about that concurrent hash map. I need to talk about fail fast collections and fail safe collections. So in that topic, I will explain what is this concurrent hash map. Concurrent hash map. I will discuss that in the fail fast and fail. Mostly tomorrow only we are going to talk about fail fast and fail safe collections. Fail fast and fail safe collections, we'll talk about that. So hash table, is it important class or it is not important class? What is the replacement for hash table? If thread safety is required, concurrent hash map. If thread safety is not required, hash map. Hash table is a legacy class. Hash table is a legacy class and it is hash table is a legacy class and it is synchronized. Okay. If thread safety is not required, if thread safety is not required, then use hash map instead of hash table. If thread safety is important, then go for concurrent hash map. Go for concurrent hash map instead of hash table. This is the official statement given by Sun Micro system. If thread safety is not required, then use hash map instead of hash table. If thread safety is not important, then go for concurrent hash map instead of hash table. Hash table is a legacy class. It is introduced in JDK 1.0 version. All good. So with this, we discussed our collections framework classes. With this, we discussed our collections framework classes. And there is one small topic in the, there are three other topics that we need to discuss in the collection. One is collections sorting. Collections sorting. For this, we are going to use a concept called comparator. What is a comparator? This topic we need to discuss. And we need to talk about fail fast and fail safe collections. Fail fast and fail safe collections. In the util package, fail fast and fail safe collections. And we need to talk about properties class. Properties class. And java.util.date and java.util.calendar and java.util.string tokenizer. Java.util.string tokenizer. Okay, collections sorting is there. Collections sorting is available. Fail fast and fail safe collections are available. Properties class is available. Java util date and Java util calendar class is available. And java.util.string tokenizer. So before that, we are going to talk about collection use cases. Collection use cases, where we are going to use which collection. That part also we need to understand. Okay guys, collections sorting with a comparator. What is a comparator and what is a comparable? One of the famous interview question. Comparator and comparable. Fail fast and fail safe collections are there. Properties class, collection use cases, Java util date and Java util calendar, Java util string tokenizer. That also we need to understand. That also we need to understand. Okay, so today I'm going to explain one class called properties class. Okay guys, properties class. Properties class is available in the java.util package. It is extending the properties from the dictionary. Dictionary class is extending the properties from hash table. Hash table is implementing map interface. Properties class is available in the Java. So that is also very, very important class. Let me go for a class called properties class. Properties class is available. Properties class is extending hash table. Properties class extending hash table. Hash table class extending from dictionary. Hash table class extending the properties from dictionary. Okay, what is the properties class in Java? What is properties class in Java? Properties is a predefined class in java.util package. First point, properties is a predefined class available in java.util package. Properties is a predefined class available in java.util package. Properties class extending properties from hash table class. Properties class is used to avoid hard coding in the projects. Properties class is used to avoid hard coding. Is used to avoid hard coding in the project. Is used to avoid hard coding in the project. So basically, in my application, I want to communicate with the database. My application want to communicate with the database. When my application want to communicate with the database, I need to configure some database properties in my application. So this is a database. This is a database, and this is my Java logic, or I can say this is my Java application. My Java application wants to communicate with the database. My Java application wants to communicate with the database. If my Java application wants to communicate with the database, I need to configure database properties, database URL, database username, and the database password. In the JDBC, you guys will understand this topic. Database URL, username, password I need to configure. Suppose if I configure this database credentials within my Java application to communicate with the database, tomorrow my database properties will change. Tomorrow when the database properties will change, again I need to recompile, I need to change my Java program, I need to compile and I need to run the program. So my Java application will use JDBC in future. In the advanced Java, my Java application will use the JDBC. By using that JDBC, my Java application want to communicate with the database. My Java application want to communicate with database. If my Java application wants to communicate with the database, we need to configure data source properties. If I hard code the data source properties in the Java application, tomorrow when I change my database properties, then my Java application code also should be changed. It is not recommended. It is not recommended. Hard coding means fixing the values in the program. Hard coding means fixing values in the program. Fixing the values in the program. One of the use case. If a Java application wants to communicate with the database, we need to configure database properties in the Java application. If Java application wants to communicate with the database, if Java application wants to communicate with the database, then we need to use database properties or database credentials in Java program. If we hard code database credentials in a Java program, if we hard code database credentials in Java program, if we hard code database credentials in Java program, then maintenance will become difficult. Sir, why maintenance will become difficult? If I configure database properties in the Java program, if a Java application wants to communicate with the database, then we need to use database credentials in the Java program. That means what is the URL of the database, what is the username of the database, what is the password of the database, everything we need to configure in the Java program. If we hard code database credentials in Java program, then project maintenance will become very difficult. Why? Because in future, if database credentials are modified, then we need to modify our Java program also. If Java program is modified, then we need to recompile and re-execute our program, our project. So now tell me, is it recommended to configure database properties within the Java program, or it is not recommended to configure database properties within the Java program? Is it recommended to configure database properties within the Java program, or it is not recommended to configure within the Java program? Come on guys. Is it recommended to configure database properties within the Java program, or it is not recommended to configure database properties within the Java program? Recommended to configure the database properties within the Java program, or not recommended to configure database properties within the Java program? It is not recommended to configure database properties in the Java program. Why? Because if you configure database properties in the Java program, maintenance will become difficult. Sir, what is the meaning of that maintenance? So today my database username password is something like this. Suppose for example, my database username is equal to some Ashok IT and my database password is equal to Ashok IT @123. After 2 months, I realized that there is a security concern for my database. I want to change my password. I want to remove this old password and I want to go for a new password. Yes, okay. @321. I modified the password. My database is having some username and password. My Java application want to communicate with the database. If my Java application want to communicate with the database, in my Java application, I need to configure username and password. Okay, I configured. It is connecting to the database, no problem. But after 2 months, I realized that there is a security concern. There is a security concern. I need to remove the old password for my database and I need to configure this new password. If I configure the new password for the database, then the password should be changed in the Java program also. When the password is changed in the Java program, again I need to compile the program. Again I need to execute the program. That is problem. That is the problem. Okay, so now tell me, is it recommended to configure the database properties within the Java program, or it is not recommended to configure database properties within the Java program? Is it recommended to configure the database properties within the Java program, or it is not recommended to configure the properties within the Java program? It is not recommended to configure the properties within the Java program. What we do in the real time is, this is my application, this is my database. This is my application, this is my Java application, and this is my database. My application will read the data from one properties file. Here I will configure DB properties. I will configure DB properties. I will give it as db.properties. db.properties. Now my Java application will take the data from the properties file. Then my Java application will connect with the database. So earlier I configured database properties within the Java program. Now I am configuring database properties outside of the Java program by using properties file. Properties file is used to store the data in the form of key and value. Properties file is used to store the data in the key and value. To overcome above problems, we will not do hard coding. We should not do hard coding. We should not do hard coding. What is the meaning of hard coding? Hard coding means fixing the values in the program. Example, database properties. Example, database properties. What is a properties class? Properties is a predefined class available in util package. Properties class extending properties from hash table. Properties class is used to avoid hard coding in the project. What is the meaning of a hard coding? Hard coding means fixing values in the program. Example, database properties. Properties is a predefined class available in java.util package. Properties class extending properties from hash table class. Properties class is used to avoid hard coding in the project. What is the meaning of a hard coding? Hard coding means fixing values in the program. Database properties. Use case. If a Java application wants to communicate with the database, then we need to use database credentials in the Java program. If a Java program wants to communicate with the database, then we need to use database credentials in the Java program. If we configure database credentials in the Java program, then project maintenance will become very difficult. Why? Because in future, if database credentials are modified, then we need to modify our Java program also. If a Java program is modified, then we need to recompile and re-execute the project, which will take a lot of time. To overcome the above problems, we should not do hard coding. To avoid the hard coding in the Java projects, we will use java.util.properties class. What is the class we are going to use, guys? Java.util.properties class we are using. What is the purpose of java.util.properties class? It is used to avoid the hard coding. My application will be available. My database will be available. My application want to communicate with the database. But the database properties I will not configure in the application because database properties may change in the future. That's why database properties I am going to configure in the db.properties file. My application will read the data from the db.properties file by using properties class to connect with the database. So tomorrow, if I change the database properties, if I change the database credentials, do I need to change my Java program or only properties file will be changed? If my application is reading the data from one file, tomorrow database password is modified. When the database password is modified, do I need to change my Java program or I can read from the properties file? I can read from the properties file. Are you guys able to understand? With hard coding, without hard coding. So here my Java application is having hard coding. My Java application is having hard coding. What is the meaning of a hard coding? Fixing the values in the program. Here without hard coding. Without hard coding. Java project development with hard coding, without hard coding. Which one is recommended? Developing a project with hard coding is recommended. Developing a project without hard coding is recommended. With hard coding is not recommended. Without hard coding is recommended. With hard coding is not recommended. Without hard coding, it is recommended. So never ever configure your properties in the program directly. If you configure the properties in the program directly, tomorrow if you change something in the properties, then you need to recompile the code and you need to re-execute the code. To avoid that problem, Java introduced a class called properties class. Sun Microsystem introduced a class called properties class. By using properties class, we can avoid hard coding in the project. Whatever the database properties required for your application, don't store in the application, don't store in the program directly. Whatever the database properties are available, store the properties in the db.properties file and read the data from the properties file by using your Java program. How my Java program can read the data from the properties file? What is a properties file? Properties file is used to store the data in the form of key and value. Properties file is used to store the data in the form of key and value. Here I'm going to take one properties file with a name called db.properties. Let me take a file with a name called db.properties. I'm taking a file with a name called db.properties. In the db.properties, I will configure like this. Username is equal to Ashok IT. Password is equal to Ashok IT @123. Now, am I configuring the credentials in my Java program? I'm configuring the credentials in the properties file. Guys, am I configuring the credentials in the Java program? I'm configuring them in the properties file. I'm configuring them in the properties file. Here, I will write a Java program. Here I will write a Java program. My Java program wants to communicate with the database. Here my database is available. So in order to communicate with the database, I need a database username and password. Now my Java program will use a class called properties class. My Java program will communicate with a class called properties class. Why this will communicate with the properties class? Properties class will communicate with the properties file to load the data. Java program will communicate with the properties class. Properties class will communicate with the properties file to load the data dynamically. Then my Java program will use those properties and my Java program will communicate with the database. Okay. So earlier we have configured database credentials in the Java program. If I configure database credentials in the Java program, what is the problem? If I configure database credentials in the Java program, then what is the problem? Tomorrow, if database credentials are modified, then my Java program should be modified. then my Java program should be modified. Then I need to recompile the program and I need to re-execute the program. Recompile the program and re-execute the program, which will take a lot of time. Which will take a lot of time. Are you able to follow me? The difference between hard coding and without hard coding. Now, if I go for this concept, what is the advantage, guys? If I go for this concept, what is the advantage? If I go for a properties class, what is the advantage? Properties file, what is the advantage? My Java program is tightly coupled with the properties. My Java program is loosely coupled with the properties. My Java program is tightly coupled with the properties, or my program is loosely coupled with the properties. My program is loosely coupled with the properties. Tomorrow, if database credentials are modified, do I need to modify my Java program? I no need to modify my Java program. Tomorrow, if the database properties are modified, do I need to recompile my project? Do I need to recompile my program? Do I need to re-execute my program? No. If database properties modified, where I can change? If database properties are modified, I will change only properties file, not the Java program. Not the Java program. Easy. Easy maintenance will be there for the project. Easy maintenance will be there for the project. So every project will use these properties files to configure some values which may change in the future. One of the best example, database properties. One of the best example, database properties. Okay, guys, for example, if I don't use the properties file concept, then what is the issue? If I use the properties file concept, then what is the issue? What is the issue? Hard code I have to do. If I configure the database properties within the Java program directly, then what is the issue? If I configure database properties directly in the Java program, what is the problem? Tomorrow, if the database password is modified by the database team, if a database team modify the database password, then what I need to do? I need to change my program. I need to compile my program and I need to execute my program. If I modify some code, other code may disturb. If I modify some code, some other code may disturb. So is it recommended to hard code the values in the program? Not recommended. So that's why we are going to use properties file. Sir, what is a properties file? Properties file is just like a file which is used to store the data in the form of key value. Properties file is nothing but a file which is used to store the data in the form of key and value. However, Java program will read the data from this properties file by using properties class. Where is this properties class available? Properties class available in the java.util package. It is extending the properties from hash table. It is extending the properties from hash table. Okay. Can we make one small program on the properties file? Can we make one small program on the properties file now? Look at the diagram. Properties file. We will configure the username and password in the file. My Java program want to read the data from the properties file. Okay, we need to load the file and we need to read the data. Let's take one simple Java program. Okay, let me create one project, file new, Java project, properties file demo. I'm creating one project with a name called properties demo. First, new file. Let me create a file, database.properties. I'm creating a file. Username is equal to some Ashok IT. Password is equal to some value. Username and password I am giving. Now let me create one Java class. New class in dot Ashok IT. I'm taking a class called database application. I'm taking a class called database app. Here I'm taking a main method. What is the file name? Database properties is the file name. Now I want to read the data by using properties class. Okay, properties p is equal to new properties. Properties p is equal to new properties. So I'm going to create the object for properties class. Now for the properties class, I need to tell where is the properties file. Properties file can be available within the project. It can be available outside of the project also. Where that properties file is available, we need to tell to properties class. I'm creating the object for the properties class and I'm going to tell p dot load of input stream. Where is that file available? Let me create file input stream. FIS is equal to new file input stream. Now I am going to pass that file. What is that file? Database.properties. What is that file, guys? Database.properties file is available. Okay. P dot load of file input stream. P dot load of file input stream. It is giving some checked exception. I'm ignoring that exception by using throws exception. File input stream FIS is equal to new file input stream. That means which properties file you want to load into your application. Where is your properties file? What is the name of your properties file? We are giving that by using file input stream FIS is equal to new file input stream database.properties. Properties P is equal to new properties P dot load of input stream. So I am configuring the path of the file. I'm loading that file into my project by using properties class. Then p dot get property. What is the key? Let me get that key. P dot get of key property I'm getting. This is username. This is username. String password is equal to p dot get property of password is the key. Let me print system.out.println username and system.out.println password. Okay. Then I'm doing file input stream dot close. Then I'm going to do properties dot close. Close is not available for the properties. Just this is the project. Just let me run this project. Run as Java application. Am I able to load my database username and password from the properties file? Username and password. Am I able to load my database username and password from the properties file? Username is Ashok IT, password is Ashok IT @123. Are we able to read the data from the properties file? Now, in the JDBC classes, we will read this username and password. We will connect to the database. We will read this username and password and we'll connect to the database. Now, username and password I am configuring in the project or I'm reading from a file. Username and password I am hard coding in the Java program or I'm reading the username and password from a properties file. Username and password I'm hard coding in the Java program. I'm reading from a properties file. I'm reading from a properties file. What is the advantage with this concept? What is the advantage with this concept? What is the advantage with this concept? Loosely coupled. Tomorrow, if the database password is modified, do I need to change anything in my program? No, I will just change my properties file. Key is equal to value. It is something like a map only. Properties is a class extending from hash table. That means, can I call properties is also a map interface related class? Can I call properties is also a map related class? Yes, properties is extending from hash table class. Hash table is implementing map interface. Hash table is implementing map interface. Are you clear? Are you clear with my point? Okay, guys. Now, how to create this file? Simply, we created, right click on the project, new file. That's it. Right click on the project, new file. That's it. Give the extension as dot properties. That's it. Key equals to value. Key equals to value. Created a file with the dot properties as the extension. That file we are creating inside the project folder. I stored the username and password. In my project, what I have done, I am creating object for file input stream. File input stream is used to load the file. This is the name of the file. That file is available in my project, which is having the data like this. Now, this file should be given as the input for the properties class. I'm creating the object for the properties class and p dot load. String username is equal to p dot get property. Key, I'm giving the key to get the value. Get property of key, I'm getting the value. System.out.println username, password. Now I'm able to read the username and password. In future, I will use this username and password to connect with my database. In the JDBC classes, we will understand how to communicate with the database. This properties file, not only in the collections classes, guys. If you see, in the Spring Boot classes also, we are going to use this properties file. Let me open my Spring Boot classes, src, main, resources. Can you see what is this? Application.properties. So this is my Java real-time project batch. There we are developing a project by using Spring Boot. In the Spring Boot project also, application.properties file is available. If I open application.properties file, can you see? Data source username, data source password. Am I configuring the database properties in the program, or I am configuring them in the properties file in the Spring Boot? So whatever the concept we are learning in the Spring Boot also, we will follow the same concept. I'm configuring the database properties in the properties file. Why I am not configuring in the Java program? Why I am configuring in the file? If I configure in the Java program, tomorrow, if I want to change that, then I need to change my Java program. That is tightly coupled maintenance problem. To simplify the maintenance, I'm using properties file. In the Spring Boot also, we will use this application.properties to configure our application configurations like database properties. Now, how I am loading the properties from the properties file? By using properties class, which is available in java.util package. File input stream FIS is equal to new file input stream database.properties. I'm giving the file as an input. Then I'm creating the object for the properties class p.load of input stream. In this file, whatever the data is available, load everything into properties class. Let me print that class first. System.out.println of p. Let me run this project. Now see, it is like a map. Everything is loaded. When I print this in the line number 15, when I execute system.out.println of p, uname is equal to Ashok IT, password is equal to Ashok IT @123. Whatever the data is available in the properties file, everything is loaded into properties class by using load method. So file input stream class I'm using to refer where is the file. Properties class object I'm creating. I'm calling load method. Load all properties from the file. Load all the properties from properties file and store in the map. So when I print this object, all the properties are printed. When all the properties are loaded into that properties class, I want username property value. Get property of key, it will give the value of that. Get property of a password, this is the key name. And whenever you call get of key, you will get the value. Here we are calling get property of key, it will give the value. Get property of uname, what is the uname? Uname is my key. For that key, it is giving the value. And p dot get property of pwd, this is my key, it is giving the value of that key. For example, if I try to get a property which is not available, string driver is equal to p dot get property of driver. P dot get property of driver. I'm trying to print the driver. The key is not available, but I'm trying to load it. I'm trying to load it. Driver. Do we have any key in the property file with a name called driver? I have a key with uname. I have a key with the password. Do I have any key with a name called driver? Is there any key available with the driver? No. Then what will happen? Whenever you access map.getOf key, if the key is not available, then what will happen? Null value. It is going to give you null value. Key uname is available, so I'm able to get the value of the key uname. Key password is available, I'm able to get the password value. Key driver not available, then it is giving null value. It is giving null value because key not presented. Key not present. When the key is not present, it will give null. It will give null. Now, are you able to understand how we are going to maintain properties in the projects? Are you guys able to understand how we will maintain properties in the project? By using properties file. Not only in core Java, even in the Spring Boot also we will follow the same concept. Not only in core Java, even in the Spring Boot also we will follow the same concept. Database credentials will be maintained in the properties file. My Java program will use the properties class to load the properties. Based on those properties, I will connect to the database. Tomorrow, if the database credentials are modified, I no need to touch my Java program because my Java program reading the data from a properties file. If any changes are required in the properties, I will just modify my properties file. Maintenance easy. Application is loosely coupled with the credentials. Not only in the core Java, even in the Spring Boot also we will follow the same concept. Properties class. It is used to load the data from the properties file. What is properties file? Properties file is used to configure the data in the form of key and value. Properties file contains data in key value format. Example, uname is equal to value, password is equal to value. Note, properties file extension will be dot properties. Okay guys, now this is my Java program. This program is used to read the data from the properties file. Okay, create database.properties file with below data in project folder. So create below Java class to read the data from properties file. Okay, keys. Based on the keys we need to read the data. This is database dot. Just to create a file, give the extension as dot properties. File name can be anything because whatever the name you give for the file, same name we are giving here to load. That's it. So with this, are you able to understand what is the properties class? Can you read this now? Properties is a predefined class available in java.util package. Read this. Properties is a predefined class available in java.util package. Properties class extending the properties from hasTable class. Properties class is used to avoid hard coding in the project. Hard coding means fixing values in the program. Example, database properties. Use case. If Java application wants to communicate with the database, then we need to use the database credentials in the Java program. Then we need to configure database credentials in Java program. If we hard code database credentials in Java program, then project maintenance will become very difficult. Why? Because In future, if database credentials are modified, then we need to modify our Java program also. We need to modify our Java program also. If Java program is modified, then we need to recompile and re-execute our program, which will take a lot of time. Which will take a lot of time, and it may break existing code. If I modify some code in the program, other code may be affected. Okay, so to overcome the above problems, we should not do hard coding. Okay, to avoid the hard coding in Java projects, we will use java.util.properties class. Okay, properties file contains data in key value format. Properties class is used to read the data. Properties class is used to read the data from properties file. Properties file contains data in key value format like a map. Map is used to store the data in the key value format. Similarly, properties file contains data in the key value format like map. Example, username is equal to Ashok IT, password is equal to Ashok IT @123. Properties file extension will be dot properties. Create database.properties file with below data in the project folder, database.properties. Create below Java class to read the data from the properties file. File input stream, here you can see that file input stream class I'm creating. For that I'm giving the file name. If you observe, file I have created in the project folder, not in the SRC guys. I right clicked on the project folder and I created here. You can take a screenshot of my project folder structure. If you want, you can take a screenshot of my project folder structure, how I have created. Inside the project, I have created a file. Inside the SRC, a package. In that package, my class is available. Right click on the project folder, new file. You can give any name for the file. Okay, config props dot properties. Like this, you can give any name for the file. Any name for the file. I have given the name as a database.properties. In that file, I am configuring the data as a key and value. Key is equal to value. Key is equal to value. So how I am loading that file? File input stream. Properties P is equal to new properties. P dot load. Then I'm printing that properties. Key value pair. Everything is loaded. If you want to get a particular property, P dot get property of key. If the given key is available, it will get the value of the key. If the given key not available, it will give the null value. And remember, when you go for the properties file, key and value will be represented as a string only. Any data that you represent, it will be having the type as a string type. Properties class will use the data in the form of key and value. Both are strings only. Both are strings only. Clear? Clear all of you? Yeah. I hope you understood how to use properties class, how to load the data from the properties class. Yeah. What is the main purpose of the properties class? What is the main purpose of properties class? To avoid hard coding. To avoid hard coding. Okay? Perfect, guys. Please practice this. So tomorrow we'll talk about comparator and comparable and fail fast and fail safe collections that we will discuss in the tomorrow session. Collections sorting, fail fast, fail safe, that I will discuss in the tomorrow session. Okay. Thank you guys. So tomorrow also same Zoom link, we'll meet in the tomorrow session. Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye. Good night. Yeah. Tomorrow also same timing, 5:30 p.m. Tomorrow we'll talk about collections sorting, fail fast and fail safe collections. Okay. Yeah. Bye.